Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Bowling University studio from the International Bowling Campus here in Arlington, Texas. I'm Bart Berger, and I'll be your host for this edition of the Bowling University Tuesday Morning Profit Break. Thank you for joining us. The Tuesday Morning Profit Break is an opportunity for sharing insights on how to grow revenue, reduce costs, and enrich yourself, your team, and your business. Welcome to our new viewers, and welcome back to those of you that are joining us again. Thank you all for taking a few minutes out of your busy day. We have another great show ready to go and to share with you today. So grab your coffee or your favorite morning beverage, and let's get started improving your profitability. Today we have with us a very special guest, Mr. Steve Lerch. Steve is the president and founder of Story Arc Consulting. He serves as a keynote speaker on topics like innovation, consumer behavior, marketing, and also consulting with various organizations on strategic planning, digital marketing, and consumer analysis. Steve spent nearly a decade with Google, you might have heard of that company, building digital strategies for brands like GoPro and Roku. Steve also served as a noogler. We're going to find out what a noogler is in a moment. He was tasked with educating large groups of new team members on history, philosophy, and the culture of Google. Steve, thank you so much for being with us today and carving out a few moments.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Excited to make this work virtually.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. So let's get started. First of all, let's dig into your time with Google. I know you spent almost a decade with one of the most recognizable brands in the world. And how did that shape you in informing your group Story Arc and kind of the message and what you deliver today?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it was almost a decade at Google. It was a fun decade. And I got to do and see a lot of different things. In particular, in my core role, I got to work with so many different businesses and so many different industries. My main focus was on helping advertisers to try to better understand the digital world and better use digital marketing. And when I first started, it was working mostly with small family-owned businesses. But as you kind of mentioned in the intro there, it changed over time. I got to work with huge tech companies like GoPro. I moved from California to DC a few years ago, and I started working with nonprofits. I worked with the federal government, with groups like FEMA, with trade associations, and all along this path, I'm working with hundreds of different businesses across dozens of different industries. And I'm also working with the hundreds of different ad agencies and PR firms that come along with those groups. And I feel like more than anything else, since leaving Google, what I really took away from the experience and what helped me launch Story Arc, it's just this huge sort of amalgamation of really just a ton of different perspectives and different strategies and tactics that come from different places. I think, as we'll talk about bowling, obviously, from what bowling alleys can learn from restaurants, who can learn from movie studios, who can learn from presidential campaigns. Good ideas are good ideas. And the big reason I left Google was I just had this feeling that I wanted to find those businesses and those organizations and those people, honestly, who were hungry for those new ideas, who wanted to look outside their core industry and their business and find other things that work. And that's what I get to do now through my speeches and through my consulting practice. And it's a fun ride. I love Google. I miss Google, but it's been fun going out and just chasing down those folks who want to try something different.
Good, thanks, and we're fortunate to have you. We're great to have you on board with us now. So, as businesses like ours are starting to turn the table, and I use the term kind of the road to recovery. What do you? They're balancing cost and time. Where do they start? Where should they be investing right now?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the big question, the $1 million question for everybody, right? Trying to figure out, how do you move forward? How do you grow when you're recovering so much, as so many industries are right now? And I think, like you, I'm so anxious for this turnaround and for this recovery and for this return to whatever the new normal looks like, as everybody likes to say these days. And, I think every business is unique, and I know all of your members, they've all got their own challenges, their own needs, and they all have their own expertise. But I can tell you at a macro level, and this is looking across so many different industries, but I think something that's especially relevant in sort of, a recreational activity, a recreational business like bowling, and it's that you absolutely must find room in your budgets this year for marketing. It's so ironic that marketing budgets are often one of the first things to get cut when it's tough times like COVID obviously has been. But as we hopefully do return to normalcy, your marketing budget should be bigger than ever. Marketing, PR, communication, whatever you want to call it. Because here's what's happening. Everyone in your community had their lives upended in the last 12 months. And you all know this because it happened to all of you as well. To some degree or another, all of us were knocked out of our habits and off of the routines we had, which means we'll need to reform habits. And that's a really, really big deal. Think of it like back to school marketing, right? You'll see more ads for things like cereal and eggs and orange juice in August than at any other time of the year, because CPG brands, they know that if they can get a mom and a dad to give their kids their food for breakfast for the first week of school during what is a habit forming period, they might have just sold orange juice and eggs for every week for the next 9 months. The same type of things are happening with different product categories at New Year's Day or the start of the summer, the start of the winter. We market towards habit forming periods because that's how we drive lifetime value. And honestly, this is the first time maybe ever, certainly in my lifetime, where everyone on the planet is going to reform habits at the same time. As the world reopens, people have to decide again for sort of a new start on how do they spend their Friday nights? What do they do every Saturday afternoon? What do they do for their kids' birthday party? Where do they take their kids when they get good report cards? You're never again going to have a period of time like this when so many people are ready to get hooked on something new. You got to make that thing bowling. You have to strike now. You cannot skimp on marketing this year. I know it's hard. I know it's hard to find the budgets, but you can't let the next ad someone sees, the next ad your potential customers see when they're looking for a new habit, you can't let it be for mini golf or a rec softball league or an arcade. You gotta beat your competition to the punch. I know it's hard to find the money, but this cannot be the year you skimp on marketing.
Yeah, that is a great message. And as a marketing person at heart, you warm my heart that you made that statement and said that. So let's assume for a moment that we're with you and our viewers are with you and they're going to allocate some funds to marketing there. So we've carved that out. The question then becomes, will consumers be receptive to that message that we're pushing on them? Is the time right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird world, right? I mean, I think we're all learning as we go, and we're all sort of trying to figure this out, how we feel and how our customers feel. And there are obviously really big differences, I think, in the way people see and think and act when it comes to COVID right now. And many of those differences are drawn on political lines or geographic lines. And you all know your customers best. But while different people have different opinions on how to approach, again, the new normal, everyone, and I mean everyone, is incredibly eager for normalcy. Everyone wants this to be over. Everyone wants to go back to normal and not have to worry about this stuff. So at its core, the messaging that you all push out there, whatever channel it's through, whatever means you use to talk to customers, it should remain positive and upbeat. You want to have, whether it's ads or Facebook posts or your website, if you want to show people in masks, that's fine. If you want to talk about how thoroughly you clean things, that's great. But the core thing you're selling is still fun. It's still family. It's still sport. It's still entertainment. You cannot be afraid to keep selling those things because that is what people want. And even the people who aren't ready for it yet, the people who still need to see masks and need to see cleaning, even those people, they still are desperate for the fun. They are aspiring to get back to that. We used to have this concept at Google. It was called Leading with Your Beyonce Story. And I'll go more into details on that at the Expo this summer. But just at a high level, it's essentially this concept that the digital world, social media, your website, digital advertising, it really gives you this cool opportunity to put your best, brightest, most positive foot forward when you talk to customers. Again, ad campaign, images on your website, Facebook posts, whatever it might be. You can lead with that fun and happy and interesting and entertaining because digital allows you to have all the more difficult conversations live in the background. You absolutely should have a page on your website that talks about your cleaning policies, that talks about mask rules and social distancing. All that stuff is important, and the people who want that info, they have to be able to find it, but that doesn't mean you lead with it. You should only have the difficult conversations when you have to. Lead with the fun, lead with the thing you are that everyone is desperate to get back to. Just make sure that important, detailed information lives somewhere in the background, and that's what digital gives you the option to do.
Yeah, that is great stuff. Thank you. So, is our industry, a bowling industry, we're a relatively small industry, how can we better understand what consumers are thinking and feeling, and how do we use that to our advantage?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's everything, right? And that's every business, right? I think collectively, all industries need to do a better job and put more time, money, whatever it is, into understanding the way consumers think and feel and how those things drive their actions. My background is Google, obviously, so I'm very much a data-first person. But I do think oftentimes when we start talking about statistical analysis or analyzing consumer behavior in data sets, it's real easy to sort of lose some people along the way. And I think what this industry needs to remember is that there are so many places to get data, right? So many different places to get just little tidbits, little facts, little ideas from your customers that are actually fast and easy and free, and they don't have to be intimidating. To me, using like data to understand your consumers, it just means looking for any signal that can help me identify an actionable trend. I want to find a behavior that's changing, and I want to get in front of it and act on it. And if you've got the resources to do things like consumer surveys or focus groups, that's great, and go ahead and do those things. But if you don't have those resources, that's fine too. There's a lot of other ways to get to this data. Start with social media. Spend some time just reading the comments on your social media page, on your competitors' page, the pages for competitive industries like golf courses or movie theaters or restaurants. It sounds so simple and it might sound silly, but just see what people are talking about. See what's getting all the likes and the shares. And it sounds, again, so basic, but the ideas you get from little comments can be invaluable. And I'll give you one of my favorite stories. This is 20-some years ago when Amazon just sold books and movies. Jeff Bezos, now the richest person in the world, he sent an email to 1,000 Amazon customers. And he basically was looking for suggestions on what Amazon should sell next. Again, it was basically just books and movies at this point. And one of the responses he got back, so think of this as the sort of the old version of a Facebook comment, it said, windshield wiper fluid, because right now my car needs new windshield wiper fluid. And that seems like a pretty worthless comment, so just random and nothing to it, right? But it was actually that comment that Jeff Bezos attributes with the realization that Amazon shouldn't be defined by product categories. It should be the place you go to buy whatever it is you need right now, which means Amazon should sell everything. He asked for 1,000 comments from 1,000 customers, and he's the richest person in the world now because he did that. If you want to do this sort of thing at scale, try social listening services like Sprout Social or Hootsuite. I'll talk more about those at the Expo this summer as well. Or you can use other tools like Google Trends, google.com/trends. This is my favorite tool in the world for getting insight into how customers think. I will probably spend way too much time talking about that this summer at the Expo, but it's a fantastic tool, google.com/trends. to get a sense of what people in your area are interested in, what they're asking for, what their priorities are, by analyzing the way they search on Google. And it's a great starting point to get some new ideas and some insights into your customers.
Thank you, Steve. That's some great stuff. So I'm going to sneak in one last question here for you. You know, you're learning about our industry. We're spending some great time together, and you know that we're primarily made up of sole business proprietors, not a lot of large corporations. So with that in mind, with budgets are limited, you know, if you could leave us with one thing, where should our viewers today start?
Yeah, I guess I'll say two things, and I'll go quick because I know I tend to talk a while. The first point is kind of the stuff I just talked about. It's really spending more time looking for insights from your customers. There's your small businesses, right? You're not going to have a marketing team of 50 people, but you've got hundreds or thousands of customers, and they've got thoughts, and they've got ideas, and they've got wants and needs. Listen to them however you can. But the second thing, and equally importantly, or I guess I'll say another thing that you can kind of do simultaneously, is just start talking. Start talking to your customers. I said earlier, this is not the year to skimp on marketing, marketing doesn't always have to be some big paid ad campaign. You can post on Facebook for free, right? It's not that hard to change the graphics on your website depending on how your site is set up. You don't need to hire some fancy photographer or videographer. Get someone on your staff with an iPhone to start filming some content, taking some pictures, getting things you can put on Instagram. Create content and push it out to your customers. It can be really hard to get fantastically perfect at marketing, to figure out your content strategy, who to target it to. It takes time, it takes money, it takes expertise. But the first step is just trying, just getting started, pushing some stuff out there for free when you can, and then just pay attention to how consumers react. We talked about Google Trends, we talked about social listening. Start pushing content out there, seeing how people react to it, and then adjusting and learning from that over time. It can be intimidated, but once you get started, once you start posting a little more often, changing your graphics a little more often, it can really make a big difference. Just make sure, again, you're paying attention along the way, looking at the data that's coming back to you, and getting better with each thing you post, with each message you do, or with each ad campaign you run.
Yeah, Steve, great stuff. I love that. Just try. Just get out there and try something there. So thank you again for spending a few minutes with us, and we are so looking forward to having you with us in June here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited. I told you before, I grew up a bowler. I've been bowling for a long time. I'm really excited to get down there and to see everyone.
Awesome. Well, hey, folks, remember, if you'd like to learn even more about understanding today's consumers, Steve will be one of our featured speakers at Bowl Expo in Louisville in June. Steve's 90-minute learning lab, The Path Forward, Understanding and Influencing Modern Post-COVID Consumers, is taking place Tuesday, June 22nd, 10:15 a.m., and I can assure you, folks, you're not going to want to miss it. So as we wrap up another edition of the Tuesday Morning Profit Break, remember that when your focus is on growing people, people will grow your business. We look forward to seeing you next week at 10:15 Eastern for another great episode of the Tuesday Morning Profit Break. If you have any questions at all about today's show or like any additional information, you can always reach us here at education@bpaa.com. Also, you and your team can watch any of our previous episodes 24/7 anytime by visiting bowlinguniversity.net. Until then, I'm Bart Berger, and remember, do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. We'll see you next week.